Okay, here's another way we can see these. The first one we learned yesterday, and then this morning we've learned radical equals radical. Well, now I've got radical equals variable. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're still going to isolate. In this case, it's already isolated, thank goodness. One is still isolate the radical. Step two, what was step two? Square both sides. So this one's already ready. I mean, the radical's all by itself in its own apartment. So now I've got to square both sides. So I end up with 4x is equal to x squared. Okay, well, no way. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and write this like it were a quadratic. Put everything on one side. I see something because I see weird things. I just want to say x equals 4, but it only gives me one answer. So when you have x squared, you're going to get, when you have x squared equals something, usually you're going to get 2 solutions. And we have to check our 2 solutions. Because anytime you have a quadratic, remember, it's the graph, and we're looking for these 2 solutions. Sometimes there's 2, but it's possible we could get 1 or none. But let's go ahead and move everything to one side. So I'll go ahead and move the 4x over. I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. I'm going to go ahead and get 0 is equal to x squared minus 4x. Okay? Now, we didn't do a whole lot of this when we did factoring. We did some. But do you see that both of these have an x in common? I want to try and factor first. If I had all 3 terms, I'd be doing the magic x. But I don't have 3 terms. Or I could say plus 0. Oh, there we go. Now I have 3 terms. So let's do the magic x. Okay? What goes on top is a times c, in this case 0. On the bottom is negative 4. I need 2 numbers that multiply together to give me 0. So one of them has to be 0. But when I add them, I get negative 4. Let's try 0, negative 4. So I can write this as x plus 0, x minus 4. I'll show you a shortcut in just a second. Okay, well, this x plus 0 is just x. So I end up with x times x minus 4. Okay, if this is 0, well, either x is 0 or x minus 4 is equal to 0. So I add 4 to both sides, and I get x equals 4. So my 2 answers are, one of them is 0, one is 4. When I check for extraneous, I've got to check both of them. Okay, so I'm going to check for both of them right now. And I'm going to go back and show you a shortcut here. Shortcut. Let me come back to it in a second to get the shortcut right here. Okay, rather than do a magic x. Extraneous solution, take the original problem. Square root of 4x equal to x. I'm going to put the 0 in first. Let's try the x equals 0. 4 times 0 is 0. The square root of 0 is 0. Is 0 equal to 0? Yeah, it checks out. Okay, square root of 4x equal x. And let's try x equals 4. 4 times 4 is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. Does 4 equal 4? It does. They both checked out. So I actually have 2 answers for this. I'm going to have 0 and 4. Okay, I'm going to continue because there's another way you can see this. And it's still a radical equals a variable. It could look something like this. X is equal to the square root of negative 2 plus 3x. Hopefully you can see that. I'll zoom in on this because I know I'm recording, so you might want to see a little closer. Okay, is it isolated? Step 1, it's already done. Isolation is done. We're good. Isolate the rad. Step 2, square both sides. The only difference here is now I'm going to have, literally the magic x will be filled in. Square both sides, because you're about to do both of these. One of each type. Okay, if I square both sides, the left-hand side becomes x squared. The right-hand side just becomes negative 2 plus 3x. Okay, well, now I'm still disco moo-mooing. However, the way we disco moo was I'm going to end up factoring. I'm going to solve by factoring. Solve by magic x. First, move everything over. It's got to be ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's what our goal is, to get everything on one side and 0 on the other. So I'm going to add 2. Several of you, when you took this test, you merely just said, oh, just put minus 2 on the other side. And you messed up the signs because you did that. So I'll have x squared right now plus 2 equals 3x, and then I'll subtract the 3x from both sides. X squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. Now we'll magic x. 2 up here, negative 3 on the bottom, so I need negative 2, negative 1. So I could write this as x minus 2, x minus 1 equals 0. What would make this equal 0? X would have to be a 2. What would make this equal 0? X would have to be a 1. Now, I want to check to see if I'm correct. We're checking for extraneous now. Okay, the original problem said x equals square. You always go back to an original. I'm going to first check x equals 2. Let's plug in a 2 right here. I'll rewrite everything. Square root negative 2 plus 3 equals, and a 2 right here. So the square root, negative 2 plus 6, which will be 4. 2 equals square root of 4. It does. So the 2 checks out. Now let me try the 1. Sometimes they don't both work. I'm kind of hoping this one doesn't, so at least I gave an example of one that really both of them didn't work. Some of you can do this in your head like on a test, but right now I'd like to see your work on it. You can do the check pretty quickly. Negative 2 plus 3. Actually, this one checks out. 1 is equal to square root of 1. 1 equals 1. Okay, both of my answers checked out. So my final answer is 1, 2 in braces. That's your final answer. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.